Have you ever just wanted to play back your birth video to see how you did? Well, that's what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. My name is Debbie Garcia, and I am a childbirth educator as well as a lactation education counselor, and I teach hypnobirthing classes monthly.
Okay, so before we start, I do have to preface this video or this reaction video with a little bit of the timeline so you have more context.
Here's the timeline. I have about 13 different entries from start to finish. That's right, 13 entries that are worth talking about. So from the onset of labor or labor contractions all the way to the baby is born, there's just 13 timestamps for that.
Yeah, that is pretty quick.
Anyway, the first thing that I noticed the day before I was actually in labor was really early labor contractions. And you might wonder, what does that even feel like? Well, if you've had your period before, you've definitely felt light menstrual cramps, and that's essentially what they feel like in the very beginning. And if you're really attuned to your body, you may recognize that feeling, or sometimes you may not even. So at about 7 a.m. the day before I actually was in like the thralls of labor, I started noticing these really light menstrual cramps, but I also noticed that there was no pattern. So what did I do? Just went about my day, told any of the birth workers that were going to be working with me to go about theirs. It was actually a holiday, so everyone was kind of enjoying the day off, and we did the same. At around 4 p.m. that day, I noticed that those light menstrual cramp type contractions were starting to come around every 15 to 20 minutes or so. So what that told me was, okay, I'm noticing that there's a pattern, and that pattern is probably going to continue getting longer, stronger, and closer together if I'm actually in labor. So again, not timing contractions yet.
Because let me tell you, for my first baby, I timed everything from the onset of labor, and if I can put a picture up of what I looked like after I gave birth to her, I looked like I had been hit by a truck. I was super tired, super swollen, and it was just not a good experience. And then I could juxtapose that with a picture of my second baby when I did none of that, and I really allowed myself to rest and just trust the process, and I looked right as rain, super fresh. So don't do that. Don't burn yourself out. Don't time everything from your first contraction. Wait until you notice a pattern. Wait until you are actually having to start using breathing techniques to utilize through the surges or the contractions. And that is when you can start timing contractions. Don't burn yourself out. Don't do what I did on baby number 1.
So even though I was noticing a 15 to 20 minute pattern, I still, again, didn't want to time them, didn't want to burn myself out. So what did I do? Just went about my day, the normal routine, which your body will let you do. Your body can even stall labor if it wants to because you have other children that you have to take care of or put to bed or whatnot. So we just decided that that's what we were going to do, our normal routine. We followed that as such, and I went to bed that night. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, I did start noticing that I couldn't sleep through the surges as well, so that is when I started to time them. And I noticed that I was starting to develop a pattern between maybe 5 to 10 minutes between surges. And so when my husband woke up and started stirring around 3 a.m., I told him, hey, hon, I think we are actually in labor and we have enough progress to maybe decide to do something about it. Now, normally, if I was on my first or even second baby, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. But because this was our fourth and because we had 3 toddlers at home, I basically have 4 kids, 6 and under, and we just knew. We didn't want to go later into the day and just have a bunch of things to juggle. So we decided we wanted to try to sneak out of the house with our kids supervised, by the way. We didn't leave them alone, but we wanted to sneak out of the house before they woke up to get ourselves to the hospital and just continue trying to labor over there or get admitted to the hospital was the goal, so that I could labor in their nice rooms that we had looked at during the virtual hospital tour.
Which, by the way, when you see the birth video, you'll see I did not get to enjoy any of that, which made me super sad.
So by 4 a.m., we left to go to the hospital. We did walk around a little bit on the hospital grounds when we got there, especially since the parking lot that they designate for birthing mothers is super far away from where you actually have to go to get to the labor and delivery wing. I don't know how I feel about that, but anyway, we walked around for a while and then finally decided to go and get admitted to the labor and delivery ward. So we walk up to the little desk, and I remember them asking me, "What are you here for?"
Girl, I'm in labor. That's what I'm here for.
I mean, really, does anyone just walk up to that desk and say, "I'd like to be admitted to the hospital for something other than labor and delivery"? But anyway, so she looks at me and you could tell she doesn't really feel like I'm ready to be admitted. And that's normal when you practice hypnobirthing techniques. You do not look like other moms who are as far along as you are in the process. You just have to trust your body and be confident. And that was really the whole reason we took ourselves to the hospital environment anyway, because we wanted to see what is it really like in the hospital environment for a birthing mom who really does want to achieve a natural birth.
Want want, sad story, kinda not the easiest thing in the world. But if you take my class, I can show you totally how to do it and how to do it better than me.
So at 5 a.m. we get admitted to the hospital. About 5:30 they give me the news. They don't feel like I'm far enough along to stay. Yeah, it was a bummer, and it was something that I did get to share in live updates that day, that we did decide to end up going home and try laboring at home, because if we wanted to stay, here's the kicker, they would let us, but we would have had to do medical interventions, none of which I wanted to do.
Okay, and here is where I'm super sad, because if I had the confidence and if they didn't throw me off my game with that news, I probably would have just decided to stay on the hospital grounds. It was a beautiful hospital, and they had a wonderful room that we were actually laboring in prior to getting admitted. But again, it just threw me off my game to hear that, in my cervical check, I was only so far along, and therefore it was probably going to be a long day, and I should probably just go home. Nurses, doctors, please don't tell that to a birthing mother. I mean, I know you see it all the time, but especially when a mom comes up to you and she says she's a 4th-time mom, she's a hypnobirthing instructor, and she knows her body. Can you please just trust her?
So a little after 6 a.m., we're already driving home. We have this new plan. Why don't we go ahead, since it's probably going to be a long day, and have my husband bring our 3 older children, again, toddlers, they're really not that old, to my parents' home. There's my mom and my dad both there to watch them, and it'll just make me feel more at ease knowing that if this is a long day, they're already in the care of 2 capable adults who can watch them all day long if necessary. So, what did we do? Instead of staying at the hospital laboring, we decided to have my husband be gone for about an hour and a half to drive my children over to my parents' house.
I know, not the smartest plan for a mother that's already delivered in the car before and has a history of quick labors. But I did have my photographer and my doula with me, so I felt pretty safe that at least I wasn't alone.
All right, so that takes us to 8:30 a.m. in the timeline of events. So by 8:30, my husband gets back to be with me, and we start doing the regular thing of just laboring at home, which we know how to do. I teach it in my classes all the time, and we wanted to try new techniques, so I was really excited about this part. I was kind of bummed we weren't doing this at the hospital, but honestly, you will labor best where you feel most comfortable, and I do feel most comfortable at home. My husband also threw out some really cool ideas. He thought maybe we could labor outside in nature, so you'll see that in the video. That's what we tried to do. Of course, we were in a new home, and so our backyard isn't really established yet. It still isn't after a year of living here. But it was nice to get outside and get some fresh air. So we tried to trek up and down this little hill that we had in the back, and it was actually working. It was almost like taking steps, and every time I would go up the little hill, I would get a surge or a contraction, and he would just kind of hold me and support my abdomen, and that was kind of what we did for, I don't know, a little under an hour or so. But there were some other things that I wanted to try too, so we went inside the house and we tried some other techniques. We tried using a rebozo, and I just remember thinking through this whole process, like, why can't I get comfortable?
Okay, I have to pause right there. So yes, that seems like a silly notion. Why can't I get comfortable when you're in the middle of labor? Because you're in labor, right? And it kind of was escaping me in that moment because I know all these different techniques. I really am an advocate for hypnobirthing. And so I know I can actually really be comfortable in labor. But that thought kept running through my mind. Why can't I get comfortable?
And actually, the reason I couldn't get comfortable is because I was currently in the stage of transition. Yes, I was in transition. And honestly, even as a birth educator, I didn't even know it. I just knew I couldn't get comfortable, which is all transition felt like for me.
Okay, if you heard that and you're wondering, how can I achieve that pain-free of a labor? Yeah, take a class, like seriously.
So at this point, my husband and my doula decide to switch places because of my inability to get comfortable. I lay down on the bed and my doula is giving me some counter pressure support, and then all of a sudden, all heck breaks loose.
And you will see this moment in the video. What I mean is I experienced the NER, the natural expulsive reflex. And everyone in the room, especially myself and my husband, absolutely knew it. I wasn't in transition anymore. I was now in the birthing phase. There's a guttural sound that a mother will make, and it kind of sounds like this. It's involuntary, and what it is your uterus beginning to push your baby out. If you haven't had an epidural, you know exactly what feeling this is. It's powerful, it's primal, it's basically what you feel that makes you after birth be like, oh my gosh, I am an amazing, strong, and powerful woman. But anyway, experiencing that feeling in your home when you're not planning to have a home birth, kind of a scary thing.
Anyway, all my fear kicked in. And let me tell you, I'm a hypnobirthing educator, so I advocate for helping people release fears in labor, not flood your body with fear and adrenaline. And that's exactly what happened to me. You don't see it in the video, but I remember telling the two ladies after I asked my husband to go pull the van around, I'm scared. Yes, me, a hypnobirthing educator. I told them I'm scared. And do you know what my photographer did? She put her camera down, she walked up to me, and she said a prayer. And it was the most beautiful thing that I have ever felt in my life, to feel so supported by another woman who has 6 kids, going on 7 right now. And it was just so beautiful to hear her confidence and her support. She slowed down for a moment, she prayed for me, and she helped me completely take all those fears away. Thank you, Alaina. I love you so much, and you did such a great job on this video. So anyway, that's all I'll share with you. I'll save my other comments for the video itself when you're watching, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, here we go. So like I said, the timeline of this video is not going to be completely succinct with the story I was telling. So this is us actually preparing to leave for the hospital in that beautiful artsy way, and then now we're back into kind of like the second hour of laboring at home. All right, so you can see I am timing contractions using an app. I recommend doing that so you can track it. You can even go back after the fact and look at your contraction patterns, which is how I time-stamped everything for you guys today. But yeah, don't start timing too early. That way you're not bothered by it. So I'm just telling them like my contractions aren't really hitting a pattern yet. My husband had just gotten back home in that clip from dropping the kids off. He's trying to provide counter pressure while I'm sitting on the birth ball. That is light touch massage. I teach all about that in my class. So good during especially early and active labor. A little bit more light touch. You can do it on the back, you can do it on the arms, the legs, and the hair. Counter pressure is also a really good technique. He was just kind of using it in that clip. This is our backyard. And my husband's kind of sweeping and preparing a path for us to walk. That's us walking. It was nice to get some fresh air. It was different. Sometimes moms like to labor in like a dark, quiet space, and outdoors was like not dark, but it was still nice. It was a nice moment to have with him. That's during a surge, experiencing a surge right there. And then this is back in the house. I wanted to try the rebozo out, so we went back inside. We're trying different techniques with it. I love that rebozo. I highly recommend using a rebozo during labor. You can provide counter pressure for mom without, dad having to use all that force or your doula having to use all that force. It was funny, it was fun. This moment was kind of fun, but again, I remember just saying like, I just can't get comfortable. I'm running out of things to do. I don't know what's going on. And what was going on was I was in transition. So yeah, so then I laid down on the bed. I wanted to do more relaxing instead of movement. He's applying counter pressure for me. There you can see, and that felt good too. But when you're in transition, there is a lot of pressure in your pelvic area because your baby is transitioning down. This is when I experienced NER. This is the moment. You can see everyone's like, yep, time to go to the hospital. Time to turn the camera off. Now we're at the hospital. We couldn't record the drive, unfortunately. I also lost track of my phone during the drive. My husband had slipped it into his pocket so I could keep listening to my music though, which was nice, or my relaxation tracks. So this is showing that epic moment in the elevator. I was like, open the door! So literally what happens after this moment, they literally walked me straight to the first triage room. I skipped the line. I jumped up on that bed. My husband wanted them to cut my pants. I was like, don't cut my pants, I'll pull them down. And then there's my little guy. He was so ready to be born. I was so thankful he waited though, because it was the fear that I was battling with that I would end up birthing in the car again, which wouldn't have been the end of the world. I wish I had footage from the car because we actually did a really good job relaxing, and I learned some great techniques for how to do that in the vehicle too, especially when you're so far along. I don't know if I can move my bubble. My reaction is blocking the baby. I don't know how to move it. There we go. Your sweet little boy, Micaiah Elian Garcia.
Because I was only 2 centimeters dilated, so they didn't.
I'm telling them.
They didn't give me the option to stay.
Yeah, I'm telling you how I didn't have an option to stay.
Part of me, in my head, I was like, because Celeste, my midwife from last night, she was like, yeah, if you need me to come in, I can help, you know? Yeah. I almost was like, let's go, Celeste. Boy.
That's us trying to pick the right pronunciation for our son's name. And then, so we did all that in triage. This is still triage room. They just didn't have enough time to get me to a delivery room. So we attempted to feed him. Normally, if you have an unmedicated birth, you shouldn't have many problems trying to feed your baby within that first hour. But sometimes, you know, there's an anatomy issue for them or for you, or just the learning curve in general, so give yourself grace. We weren't able to nurse until I finally made it into postpartum. So while they were prepping postpartum for us, they did put us in a delivery room, which was so big and so nice. I'm sad we didn't have that space. Look at how much room there is in that room. So we were just there in holding for a little bit while they did all the paperwork stuff. And we were just doing skin to skin while we were waiting. So precious. That's them doing all the weighing and the measuring. Such a fun moment for the dads. Remember, babies do big work too, and they're tired after birth. Let them get their rest. That's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed.